That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over the Nevada desert, casting long shadows across the training grounds of the Naval Special Warfare Base. Dust swirled in lazy eddies around the boots of the assembled team, the air thick with the scent of dry earth and oiled rifles. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant stood at attention in the front rank, his BDUs crisp despite the heat, shoulders squared under the weight of his gear. At his side, Rex, the Belgian Malinois, sat rigid, ears pricked forward, black eyes scanning the horizon with unerring focus. The dog's harness gleamed under the morning light, a silent testament to the bond forged in countless hours of drills and deployments. "Platoon! Attention!" The command echoed from Sergeant Major Harlan, his voice cutting through the low hum of idling Humvees. Feet shifted in unison, heels striking the packed sand with a rhythmic thud. The unit, 20 SEALs strong, handlers and operators alike, formed a precise line, rifles slung across their chests. This was EOD training, explosive ordnance disposal, the kind that sharpened instincts before a real op. No room for error here. One misstep in the field could mean lives lost. Grant's gaze flicked briefly to Rex. The dog had been his shadow for 3 years. Ever since the pup arrived from the canine breeding program at Lackland, Rex wasn't just a tool, he was precision incarnate, trained to detect C4 residue from 50 yards, to alert on IEDs buried under sand or rubble. Their partnership was unspoken, built on cues and trust, a hand signal for search, a low whistle for recall. Grant remembered the first time Rex had saved him, during a joint exercise in Afghanistan. The dog's nose twitching at a faint chemical trace, pulling the team clear of what turned out to be a daisy-chained pressure plate. No words needed. Loyalty like that ran deeper than ranks. Colonel Marcus Hale oversaw the session from the observation platform, arms crossed, his stars glinting on his collar. A veteran of 2 tours in Iraq, Hale embodied the chain of command, unyielding, results-driven. He paced the edge of the platform, briefing the group through a megaphone. "This isn't a game, people. We're simulating a forward operating base breach. Intel says possible enemy sabotage. Handlers, your K9s lead the sweep. Operators, cover and contain any deviation, and you're scrubbing latrines for a month." The team moved out in formation, boots crunching over gravel as they approached the mock compound, a cluster of shipping containers rigged with inert explosives. Radios crackled softly. "Alpha team advancing, eyes sharp." Grant gave Rex the signal, a subtle tap on the flank. The dog surged forward, nose low to the ground, tail stiff as he quartered the path. The unit fanned out behind. Weapons at the ready, the desert wind whispering through their gear. It started small, as these things often did. Midway through the sweep, Private First Class Derek Voss, a young operator on his first rotation, hesitated at a corner. Voss was green, eager but sloppy, his rifle dipped low, barrel sweeping too close to Rex's path. The dog stiffened, a low rumble building in his throat, but Voss barked a laugh. "Easy, mutt. This ain't your playground." He nudged Rex aside with his boot, not hard, but enough to disrupt the search pattern. Grant's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, voice level. "Private, stand down. The dog's got the lead here." Voss straightened, smirking under his helmet. "With respect, Lieutenant, it's a training op. Dog's fine. We're moving." From the platform, Hale's voice boomed. "Grant, keep it tight. No distractions." The team pressed on, but the disruption lingered. Rex circled back, nose working overtime, until he alerted, a sharp sit at the base of a container, paw raised toward a simulated cache. The instructors confirmed the hit, perfect execution. But as the group regrouped for debrief, Voss muttered to a cluster of operators, loud enough for ears to catch. "That fleabag almost tripped me up. Handlers think their pets run the show. Grant overheard, his hand resting lightly on Rex's head. The dog leaned into the touch, calm as ever, but Grant felt the heat rise in his chest. This wasn't personal. It was the undercurrent that eroded units, dismissal of the tools that kept them alive. He shot Voss a look, but the private met it with a shrug. Debrief wrapped under the rising sun, hail descending to the field. Solid run overall, but tightened discipline. We're SEALs, precision or nothing. His eyes landed on Grant. Lieutenant, your K-9 pulled through. Good work. Thank you, sir. Grant saluted, crisp and formal, Rex mirroring the stillness at his heel. As the platoon dispersed toward the chow hall, the air humming with post-drill chatter, Grant lingered by the range. Rex panted softly, tongue lolling, but his eyes stayed alert. Grant knelt, checking the dog's paws for thorns, a routine born of care. You did good, boy, he murmured, the words lost in the wind. That afternoon, the base stirred with an unscheduled alert. Radios lit up. A supply convoy from Nellis had reported tampering en route, possible contamination in the munitions crates. Hale assembled the response team in the ops tent. Maps spread under fluorescent lights, the scent of stale coffee mingling with canvas. This could be nothing, a drill glitch. But if it's real, we're first responders. Grant your units on point with K-9 sweeps. Grant nodded, already mentally mapping routes. Rex would be key, his nose didn't lie. But as assignments filtered down, Voss was slotted in, overseeing perimeter security. Whispers spread. The private had pulled strings with a buddy in logistics, angling for FaceTime with Hale. Grant caught Voss boasting in the barracks later, voice carrying. Dogs useful, sure, but real ops need real men. No offense to the leash pullers. The slight burned, but Grant held his peace. Chain of command demanded it. Still, as night fell and the base quieted to the distant thump of generators, he walked Rex along the perimeter fence. The dog's ears flicked at shadows, sensing tensions humans buried. Grant wondered if this was just fatigue talking, or the start of something that demanded more than obedience. By dawn, the convoy rolled in under armed escort, crates sealed but seals questionable. Hale stood at the gate, ordering inspections. Full sweep, no assumptions. Grant and Rex moved first, the dog straining at the leash, nose questing through the acrid truck exhaust. The team watched, breaths held in the cool morning air. Then, Rex alerted, fierce, unyielding, pouring at a specific crate. Tracers confirmed it, residue of unauthorized explosive compound, smuggled or sabotaged. Hale's face hardened. Lock it down. Who had access? Eyes turned. Voss shifted uneasily, his earlier bravado gone. But the colonel waved it off. Not now. Secure the site. As the investigation loomed, Grant met Hale's gaze across the yard. The order came sharp. This isn't your fight, Lieutenant. Stand by. Grant looked down at Rex, the dog's steady eyes meeting his. The bond pulled tighter than any chain. In that moment, with the desert wind tugging at their collars, he knew standing by wasn't an option. The fluorescent lights of the ops tent buzzed faintly overhead, casting stark shadows on the plywood walls lined with tactical maps and gear hooks. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant stood at the edge of the assembly, Rex at his heel, the dog's flanks rising and steady with each controlled breath. The air inside was heavy with the tang of sweat-soaked uniforms and the sharp bite of marker ink on dry erase boards. Colonel Hale paced the center, his boots thudding softly against the worn linoleum, briefing the response team on the contaminated crate. Intel's preliminary, Hale said. His voice clipped and authoritative, pointing to a circled coordinate on the map. Residue matches black market Semtex, traces only, but enough to flag tampering. Logistics cleared the convoy at Nellis, but someone's hands were dirty between there and here. We isolate, we interrogate, we contain. No leaks. The team, 8 operators, 2 handlers, and a pair of EOD techs. nodded in unison, their faces etched with the quiet resolve of men who'd seen supply lines turn lethal before. Grant's eyes traced the chain of custody log projected on the screen, signatures from drivers, loaders, and overseers. Voss's name appeared midway, initialed for perimeter check during offload. Coincidence, perhaps, but Grant's gut tightened like a rigger's knot. Rex shifted subtly, sensing the shift in his handler's posture, a low whine suppressed in his throat. "Assignments," Hale continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "Grant, you and Rex run secondary sweeps on the adjacent storage. Confirm no spread. Voss, you're on witness coordination. Pull statements from the convoy crew. Keep it procedural. No accusations yet." Voss stepped forward, saluting sharply. "Yes, sir. I'll have prelims by 1400. Hale nodded approval, then fixed Grant with a steady look. "Lieutenant, report direct to me after. This stays in-house until JAG weighs in." "Understood, sir." Grant's response was even, but as the team filed out into the midday glare, he felt the colonel's words settle like sand in his boots. "This isn't your fight." It echoed the undercurrent of the base, the invisible lines drawn between roles, where handlers like him were assets, not investigators. Rex trotted beside him, paws silent on the gravel path leading to the storage yard, his nose already questing at the wind. The yard sprawled under the relentless Nevada sun, chain-link fences rattling faintly in the breeze, rows of olive-drab containers stacked like silent sentinels. Grant unclipped Rex's leash, giving the search signal, a firm pat on the shoulder. The dog bounded forward, methodically quartering the ground, his black and tan coat blending with the shadows. Grant followed at a measured pace, rifle slung low, eyes scanning for anomalies. Disturbed earth, mismatched seals, anything out of protocol. Halfway through the first row, Rex alerted. A stiff freeze, then a paw lifted toward a seam in Container 7B. Grant knelt, gloved hand tracing the edge. No visible breach, but the dog's certainty was absolute. False positives were rarer than rain here. He keyed his radio. "Control. This is Grant. Hit on secondary. Request EOD confirm." Static crackled back. "Copy. Team en route. Hold position." As he waited, voices drifted from the adjacent yard, Voss directing the convoy crew, his tone carrying the edge of impatience. "Line up one by one. What'd you see at the stop? Any unfamiliar faces?" A driver's response mumbled low, but Voss pressed. "Details, people. This is SEAL territory. No room for fog." Grant straightened, watching from afar. Rex sat vigilant, ears cocked toward the exchange. Something in Voss's posture gnawed at him, the private's shoulders too squared, his glances darting toward the ops tent. Earlier boasts in the barracks replayed, real men, no leash pullers. Was it resentment or something sharper? Grant shook it off. Speculation wasn't his lane, but loyalty to the unit demanded vigilance, and Rex's nose had just proven why instincts mattered. The EOD team arrived minutes later, techs in bulky suits unpacking detectors. "Residue match," one confirmed after a scan, voice muffled through his visor. "Micro traces, same profile as the convoy hit. Could be cross-contam from handling." Grant nodded. "Logging the find. Pattern suggests internal access. Recommend full audit." The tech glanced up. "That's above our pay grade, sir. Colonel's call." By 1300, the sweeps wrapped, the yard secured with yellow tape fluttering like warning flags. Grant led Rex back to the handler's kennel, a low bunker off the main barracks, its concrete floor cool underfoot. He filled the dog's bowl with fresh water, watching Rex lap steadily, droplets beading on his muzzle. The routine grounded him. Brush the coat, check the harness, murmur a quiet affirmation. "Steady as ever, partner." Rex's tail thumped once, a rare show of ease, but the afternoon briefing in the ops tent shattered any calm. Hale assembled the core responders, maps updated with red pins marking the hits. Voss presented first, folder in hand. "Crew statement, sir. Drivers report a routine halt at mile marker 42, nothing out of spec. One loader mentioned a shadow truck, but no plates, no follow-up. Hale's brow furrowed. Shadow truck? Elaborate. Voss hesitated, flipping pages. Dismissed it as fatigue, sir. No corroboration. Grant leaned forward, voice measured. Sir, with respect, the K9 hits align with access points post-convoy. If there's a shadow element, it ties to internal logs. Eyes turned to him, some curious, others guarded. Voss's jaw tightened. Lieutenant, the dog's good for sweeps, but statements are human intel. We can't chase ghosts on paw prints. The room stilled. The hum of the AC unit suddenly loud. Hale raised a hand. Enough! Grant, your sweeps confirm spread. Solid work. But Voss is right. We build cases on facts, not hunches. Jag's en route from Pendleton. Until then, stand down on speculation. Grant saluted, but as he exited, Rex at his side, the dismissal landed heavier than before. Outside, the sun baked the tarmac, heat waves shimmering off parked vehicles. He paused by the fence, hand on the dog's head, feeling the warmth of fur under his palm. The base thrummed with subdued activity, operators drilling in the distance, the chop of a Blackhawk warming up on the pad. Moral lines blurred here, obey the chain or probe the weak link. Rex pressed against his leg, a silent anchor. That evening, as shadows lengthened across the parade ground, whispers circulated through the mess hall. Operators clustered over MREs, voices low. Heard Voss pulled the short straw, questioning his own crew. A handler nearby snorted. Or covering tracks, Grant's dog doesn't lie. Grant overheard from his tray line, Fork pausing mid-air. He didn't engage, protocol forbade it. But later, walking Rex under the floodlights, the perimeter lit in stark white. He replayed the day's alerts. The residue, the shadow truck, pieces that didn't fit without pressure. Hale's order to stand by chafed like an ill-fitted vest. At 2200, a summons crackled over his radio. Grant, report to Colonel's office. Solo. He arrived to find Hale behind a metal desk, lamp pooling light on reports. Rex waited outside the door, nose to the crack. Sit, Hale said, gesturing to a chair. No preamble. Your concerns noted, Lieutenant, but this is command territory. Voss is green, but he's mine to handle. Push it, and you're insubordinate. Grant met the gaze evenly. Sir, the unit's integrity is my call. Hale's tone brooked no argument, but his eyes held a flicker. Fatigue, perhaps, or the weight of unseen reports. Dismissed. As Grant stepped into the night, Rex rising to join him, the base felt smaller. The stars overhead, indifferent witnesses. The Defiant stirred, quiet but insistent. Orders protected the system, but conscience guarded the men within it. Tomorrow's investigation would test that balance, with Rex's unerring sense leading the way, whether invited or not. The Nevada night clung heavy to the base, stars pricking the black sky like distant tracers, the air cooling to a crisp edge that carried the faint whine of coyotes from the hills. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant moved through the dimly lit corridors of the barracks, his steps measured on the scuffed tile, Rex padding silently at his side. The dog's nails clicked softly, a rhythmic counterpoint to the low murmur of generators humming beyond the walls. Grant's mind replayed Hale's dismissal, the colonel's eyes hardened by years of command, brooking no breach in the line. But the residue traces, the shadow truck, they gnawed at him, fragments of a puzzle that Rex's alerts had illuminated first. He reached his quarters, a Spartan room with a cot, desk, and locker, the scent of gun oil and polished leather lingering from the day's gear. Grant knelt to unharness Rex, running a hand along the dog's ribs, feeling the steady rise and fall. Rest now, he said quietly, the words more for himself than the animal. Rex circled once, settling on his mat with a contented huff, but his ears stayed perked, attuned to the night's subtle shifts. Grant sat at the desk, pulling up the secure tablet linked to base logs. Protocol barred him from digging deeper, but a quick scan of access records, framed as routine handler review, revealed Voss's initials on 3 storage manifests, all post-convoy. A soft knock interrupted him. Sergeant Kira Lang, another handler from the unit, slipped inside, her uniform rumpled from late-night kennel checks. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked, voice low, glancing at Rex. Lang had joined the team 6 months prior, her German shepherd Jax, a veteran of urban clears in Syria. Their bond mirrored Grant's, quiet, unbreakable. Grant closed the tablet. "Just reviewing sweeps. You?" "Same. Jax picked up a feint off the perimeter fence earlier. Nothing solid, but it lines up with your hits." She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Voss was out there last shift, cozy with the logistics chief. Word is, he's gunning for a transfer to ops lead, cutting corners to shine. Grant's jaw set. Speculation. Colonel shut it down. Lang nodded, her expression guarded. Hale's old school, protects his own until proven otherwise, but if it's sabotage... She trailed off as footsteps echoed in the hall. Voss appeared at the door, flanked by 2 operators, their faces shadowed under patrol caps. "Lieutenant," Voss said, saluting loosely. "Late hours? Something up?" "Handler business," Grant replied evenly, rising. Rex lifted his head, a low rumble vibrating in his chest, but Grant signaled calm with a subtle hand. Voss's eyes flicked to the dog, then back. "Heard about the secondary hit. Dog's nose is gold, sure, but we're wasting time on ghosts when real threats are out there." His tone carried the barracks bravado, the kind that masked insecurity with volume. The operators shifted, one smirking faintly. Lang stepped forward. "Real threats start small, Private, like unchecked access." Voss's smirk faded. "With respect, Sergeant, stick to leashes. This is officer territory." He turned to Grant. "Colonel said stand by. You pushing it?" The air thickened, the room's confines amplifying the tension. Grant held Voss's gaze, the silence stretching like a taut line. "I'm following orders, reviewing my lane," Voss snorted. "Your lane's the mutt. Leave the thinking to us." He pivoted, his entourage following, their laughter echoing down the corridor, sharp, dismissive. Lang exhaled once they were gone. "Green as grass, but he's Hale's pet project. Watch your back." Grant nodded, but as she left, the encounter settled like dust after a convoy pass. Loyalty to the unit meant calling out rot, not ignoring it. He clipped Rex's leash and headed out, the base's floodlights casting long pools of yellow across the tarmac. They walked the perimeter, the chain-link fence humming under their fingers, the desert beyond whispering with wind through sagebrush. Rex's nose worked the ground, pausing at a disturbed patch near the gate, scuff marks in the sand, faint but fresh. By 0400, the base stirred to pre-dawn routine, reveille horns blaring faintly, teams forming for PT under the greying sky. Grant reported for the morning brief in the ops tent. Rex at heel, the air inside thick with the aroma of fresh-brewed coffee from a battered percolator. Hale stood at the head, flanked by JAG reps in crisp civvies, their briefcases open on the table. Voss hovered nearby, notepad in hand, his posture all business. "Update," Hale began, voice cutting the murmurs. "JAG confirms the residue as foreign, non-standard issue. No prints yet, but convoy logs point to internal handling. Voss, your statements." "Clean, sir," Voss replied. "Crew's solid. Fatigue claims on the shadow truck, likely a mirage." One JAG officer, a sharp-eyed major, interjected. "And the secondary sites? K9 reports." Grant stepped up. "2 confirmed hits, sir. Patterns suggest deliberate placement post-offload." Voss interjected smoothly. "Respectfully, Lieutenant, the dog's alerts are sweeps, not forensics, could be residual from training props. The tent hushed, eyes turning. Hale's expression tightened. Private's got a point. We're building a case, not chasing tails. But the Major leaned forward. K9 testimony holds in tribunals. Let's verify. He nodded to Grant. Run a live demo on the flagged container. Now. The group moved to the yard, the morning chill nipping at exposed skin, boots crunching gravel as they formed a loose semicircle around container 7B. Rex strained forward, nose questing, the team's breaths visible in the cool air. Grant gave the signal, and the dog zeroed in, a precise sit, paw raised, unerring. Positive, the EOD tech confirmed. Scanner beeping affirmatively. Same profile. Voss shifted, color draining from his face. Coincidence. Dogs trained on that scent profile. The Major's brow arched. Or confirmation. Private, your access timestamp matches the window. Murmurs rippled through the witnesses. Operators exchanging glances. Lang nodding subtly from the edge. Hale raised a hand. Hold. This stays contained. But the damage spread like sand in wind. By mid-morning, as the team dispersed for drills, the yard buzzed with low talk. Voss's boasts unraveling, Grant's quiet push vindicated. In the handler's bay, Rex panted steadily after the demo, Grant wiping his brow with a sleeve. The public eye of the brief had forced the issue, conscience-breaching orders without a direct clash. Hale pulled Grant aside near the kennel, voice low under the whine of a warming helo. You forced my hand, Lieutenant. Jag's digging now. Good instincts, but next time, through channels. Understood, sir, Grant saluted, Rex leaning into his leg. As the sun climbed, casting harsh light across the base, the reckoning unfolded. Voss confined to quarters pending review, statements revisited under sharper scrutiny. Grant walked Rex through the drill fields, the dog's tail high. The bond a steady pulse amid the shifting sands of command. Integrity's cost was scrutiny, but in the rigid lines of duty, it carved paths to reform, one alert at a time. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The midday sun beat down on the Naval Special Warfare Base, turning the asphalt into a shimmering haze that distorted the ranks of Humvees parked in precise rows. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant stood outside the ops tent, Rex at his side, the dog's tongue lolling slightly as he surveyed the yard with unwavering vigilance. The air hummed with the low chatter of radios and the distant crack of rifle fire from the range, a reminder that the base never truly paused. Grant adjusted his patrol cap, feeling the weight of the morning's demo still settling. The JAG Major's arched brow, Voss's paling face, the subtle shift in Hale's posture. What had begun as a handler's instinct now rippled outward, drawing lines in the sand that no order could fully erase. Inside the tent, the investigation briefing convened under the stark glow of overhead fluorescence, the scent of heated metal and fresh photocopies mingling with the ever-present trace of gunpowder from the fields. Colonel Hale presided from the head of the folding table, his uniform jacket unbuttoned at the collar, maps and logs splayed before him like evidence in a forward operating base tribunal. The JAG team, Major Ellis and a junior lieutenant, flanked him, notebooks open, while a cluster of operators and handlers filled the benches, their boots scraping softly against the canvas floor. Voss sat rigid at the far end, hands clasped on the table, his earlier confidence stripped to a veneer of protocol. Proceed with witness statements, Hale ordered, his voice steady but edged with the fatigue of command decisions. Keep it factual. We're illuminating facts, not assigning blame, yet. Major Ellis nodded, turning to the first operator, a burly EOD specialist named Ramirez. You were on perimeter during offload. Any irregularities? Ramirez shifted, his gaze flicking briefly to Grant before settling on the major. "Standard procedure, sir." "But I saw Voss chatting with the logistics chief, longer than a handoff. They checked a crate together, away from the main line." Voss leaned forward, voice controlled. "Routine verification, sir. Seals were intact." Ellis jotted a note, then called Sergeant Lang next. She stood, saluting crisply, Jax's absence noted only by the empty space at her feet. "My K9, Jax. Ran a parallel sweep post-convoy. Faint alert near the gate. Dismissed as residual at the time, but it matches Lieutenant Grant's secondary hits." The room murmured, the weight of corroborated alerts pressing in. Hale's fingers drummed once on the table, a rare tell. "Lieutenant Grant, your input on the demo?" Grant rose, keeping his tone even, eyes on Hale. Rex's response was consistent, precise. "Sit on the flagged container. The scanner confirmed Semtex traces outside standard inventory. Patterns indicate handling after initial logs." Voss interjected, his chair scraping back. "Sir, with respect, K9s are tools for detection, not interrogation. My access was logged and cleared. This is turning a glitch into a witch hunt." The junior JAG lieutenant spoke up, voice measured. "Logged access doesn't preclude intent, Private. Your statements omitted the shadow truck detail until pressed. Care to clarify?" Voss's jaw worked, but he held steady. "Driver fatigue, as reported. No evidence ties it to me." The exchange hung in the air, thick as the desert dust filtering through the tent flaps. Eyes turned, not just to Voss, but to Grant, the handler whose quiet persistence had elevated the alerts from footnote to focal point. Hale cleared his throat. "Enough. Major, your assessment?" Ellis closed his notebook. "Preliminary. Probable internal compromise. Recommend Voss confined pending full audit of manifests. And a formal review of K9 protocols. Elevate handler input in investigations." Hale nodded curtly, the decision landing like a gavel in a makeshift court. "So ordered. Voss, report to quarters. Team, maintain sweeps until cleared. Dismissed." As the group filed out, the yard alive with the thud of boots on gravel and the whine of a distant helo spooling up, Grant felt the scrutiny settle on him. Operators nodded in passing, subtle affirmations. A pat on the shoulder from Ramirez, but others whispered at the edges, the chain's undercurrents stirring. Lang fell in step beside him, voice low. "You walk the line, Elias. Hale's not thrilled." "Routine," Grant replied, clipping Rex's leash for the walk back. The dog trotted steadily, nose questing at the wind, oblivious to the human fractures, but attuned to his handler's tension. By afternoon, the base's rhythm adjusted to the lockdown. Extra patrols circling the storage yards, EOD teams in bulky gear, rescanning every crate under the relentless sun. Grant and Rex were tasked with a final perimeter clear, the chain-link fence stretching out like a barrier against unseen threats. As they moved, Rex paused at the same disturbed patch from the night before, pawing insistently, unearthing a discarded glove, its fabric stiff with residue. Grant keyed his radio. "Control, Grant. Anomalous find. Possible contam on perimeter. Request pickup. Copy. Secure and hold." Minutes later, a JAG runner arrived, bagging the item with gloved hands. "This could tie timelines," the ensign said, eyes widening slightly. Voss's shift overlapped. Word spread like radio static. The glove-matched logistics issue, fibers aligning with convoy manifests. By 1600, Hale summoned Grant to his office, the colonel's door ajar, the room dim with drawn blinds. Rex waited outside, ears cocked. "You've got a nose for trouble yourself, Lieutenant," Hale said not unkindly, gesturing to a chair. Reports littered his desk, the lamp casting harsh shadows on the stars pinned to his collar. "Jags, leaning on Voss now, the glove pushes it from glitch to suspect." Grant sat, posture straight. "Sir, The unit's security, Hale raised a hand. I know. Your push forced the light, but defiance has costs. Rumors are flying, handlers overstepping, command undermined. He paused, eyes meeting Grant's. You're solid, Grant. Rex too, but next time, flag it up chain first. Understood? Understood, sir. The words carried the weight of concession, but Grant felt the shift. A crack in the rigid facade, where loyalty to the team edged past blind obedience. Outside, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the desert in ochre tones, the base convened for evening formation. Hale addressed the platoon under the floodlights, his voice carrying over the assembled ranks, boots planted firm on the parade ground. Today's events test us. Integrity isn't optional, it's the core. We'll root out any weakness, refine our protocols. Handlers, your role expands, direct input on all anomaly reports. Murmurs rippled, eyes on Grant and Lang, Rex sitting tall at his heel. Voss's absence loomed, his quarters under guard, the investigation's momentum building toward tribunal. As the formation broke, operators approached Grant one by one. Quiet handshakes, a nod from Ramirez. Saved us a blind spot, sir. The evening cooled, wind whispering through the tents, carrying the faint scent of wet earth from a distant shower. Grant led Rex to the kennel, the concrete bunker echoing with the soft pants of other K9s settling in. He brushed the dog's coat methodically, the ritual an anchor amid the day's churn. Rex leaned into the touch, eyes steady, the bond a silent vow that had tipped the scales. In the handler's mess later over lukewarm coffee and field rations, Lang raised her mug. Reform starts small. Your stand made it real. Grant nodded, the steam curling upward like unanswered questions. The cost lingered, Hale's warning, the whispers of overreach, but so did the gain, a system bending, however slightly, toward the truths a dog's nose and a soldier's conscience uncovered. As night deepened, the base's lights flickered on, a constellation of vigilance, and Grant knew the final reckoning would seal legacies. One disciplined step at a time, the parade ground lay shrouded in the deepening twilight, the floodlights humming to life one by one, casting elongated shadows across the ranks of assembled personnel. Lieutenant Commander Elias Grant stood in formation with the platoon, Rex motionless at his heel, the dog's breath a soft rhythm in the cooling air. The scent of creosote from the desert floor mingled with the faint metallic tang of rifle oil from the day's drills, grounding the moment in the unyielding routine of base life. Colonel Hale's voice carried clearly over the assembly, each word measured against the backdrop of distant rotor blades, chopping the night sky. Discipline holds us together, Hale continued, his silhouette sharp against the lights. Today's findings remind us that vigilance isn't confined to the field. It's in every log, every alert, every instinct we trust. Effective immediately, K9 handlers will integrate into all anomaly investigations. Your inputs go direct to command briefings. We adapt, we strengthen, or we falter. The ranks shifted subtly, a ripple of nods and exchanged glances passing through the operators and techs. Grant kept his eyes forward, posture rigid, but he felt the weight lift incrementally, like a rucksack adjusted after a long hump. Rex's ears flicked once, attuned to the subtle changes in tone and posture around them. Voss's spot in the line remained empty, marked only by the gap in the formation. His confinement, a silent undercurrent that bound the unit tighter. As the colonel dismissed them, the platoon broke with crisp salutes, boots thudding in unison toward the barracks and mess halls. Grant lingered at the edge, clipping Rex's leash for the short walk to the kennel. Sergeant Lang approached, Jax trotting at her side, the two dogs exchanging a brief, wordless acknowledgement before settling into parallel steps. Hale's pivot, she said quietly, her voice carrying over the gravel crunch. You're doing. Handlers get a seat at the table now. Not my intent, Grant replied. his tone even, eyes on the path ahead, where sodium lamps pooled yellow light. Just the job. She nodded, falling back as they reached the kennel bunker, its concrete walls absorbing the night's chill. Inside, the space echoed with the soft settling of other canines, paws scraping mats, harnesses clinking as handlers performed end-of-day checks. Grant unclipped Rex, running a gloved hand along the dog's flank, feeling the warmth of muscle beneath the short coat. The routine was meditative: inspect paws for abrasions, refill the water bowl, secure the enclosure with a quiet latch. Rex circled his space once, then lay down, head on paws, his dark eyes following Grant's every move. By 2000 hours, the base had quieted to its nocturnal pulse, the low thrum of generators, the occasional crackle of a radio transmission from the watchtower. Grant made his way to the handler's ready room, a cramped annex off the main ops building, its walls lined with charts of scent profiles and deployment logs. A few others had gathered: Ramirez from EOD nursing a mug of instant coffee, and a pair of junior handlers reviewing alert data on a shared tablet. The air smelled of reheated rations and dry erase markers, the fluorescent hum a constant companion. "Evening, Lieutenant," Ramirez said, pushing a chair out. "That glove find?" "A Jag's tying it to Voss's glove size. Manifests show he signed out extras last week. Lost in training," he claimed. Grant took the seat, nodding acknowledgement without elaboration. Speculation had no place here. Facts would surface through channels. But the conversation turned procedural, voices low as they mapped potential reforms: mandatory dual verification on supply logs, K9 sweeps as standard post-offload protocol, handler observers in logistics rotations. It wasn't fanfare, just quiet evolution, born of one breach exposed. A runner interrupted at 2100, saluting briskly. "Sir, Colonel requests you in his office, solo." Grant rose, leaving Rex in the care of a duty handler, and crossed the yard under the starlit dome. Hale's office door stood open, the room lit by a single desk lamp that threw warm light over stacks of declassified reports. The colonel sat behind the desk, sleeves rolled up, a half-empty mug at his elbow. No preamble. Hale gestured to the chair opposite. "Voss cracked under questioning," Hale said, his voice stripped of inflection, eyes steady on Grant. "Admitted to the shadow truck. Side deal with a contact at Nellis for unlogged gear. Thought it was harmless padding for his record. Jags recommending reduction in rank, reassignment off base. The residue was his mishandling, nearly compromised the whole munitions stock." Grant absorbed it, hands resting on his knees, the leather of his gloves creaking faintly. "Understood, sir. Unit secure." Hale leaned back, the chair groaning under his frame. "For now. But this exposes gaps. Over-reliance on green operators, underweight on handler intel." He paused, tapping a report marked with red tabs. "Your alerts force the audit. Jags drafting a directive. K9 integration across all special warfare commands. Pilots it here first. You'll oversee the training module." The assignment landed solidly, a bridge from defiance to duty. Grant saluted from his seat. "Honored, sir." Hale's expression softened a fraction, not warmth, but respect, hard-earned. "Don't let it go to your head, Lieutenant. You're a handler, not a crusader, but men like you keep the chain honest." He stood, extending a hand across the desk, a rare gesture, firm and brief. "Dismissed. Get some rack time." Outside, the night air had turned crisp, carrying the faint howl of wind through the perimeter wires. Grant collected Rex from the ready room, the dog's tail giving a single wag as they stepped into the open. They walked the familiar loop past the storage yards, now patrolled by doubled sentries, the yellow tape replaced by reinforced seals. No words passed between man and dog, only the steady cadence of paws and boots, the bond a compass in the institutional vastness. Weeks blurred into a new rhythm. Morning briefs now included handler slots, Rex's alerts cross-referenced with human logs as standard. Grant mentored the junior handlers, demonstrating search patterns under the watchful eyes of operators who'd once dismissed the leash pullers. Lang's jacks joined joint drills, the K9 units proving their edge in precision that rifles alone couldn't match. Whispers of Voss faded, reassigned to a stateside desk, his lesson etched into base lore as a cautionary procedural. One dawn, as the platoon formed for a full unit exercise, Hale pulled Grant aside near the Humvee line, the sky streaking pink over the horizon. "Directives live," the colonel said, handing over a sealed packet. "Your template's in it. K9 protocols base-wide. You've set a precedent, Lieutenant. Wear it well." Grant tucked the packet away, saluting as the team moved out, Rex leading the sweep with unerring focus. In that moment, amid the crunch of gravel and the rise of commands, the system had bent, not broken, toward a fidelity that honored both orders and the quiet truths beneath them. Elias Grant, once ordered to stand by, now walked forward as a guardian of the line, his legacy woven into the fabric of discipline and trust. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of This Isn't Your Fight, the colonel barked. The SEAL looked down at his dog and went anyway. See you in the next one.